Greetings, class. Today we are going to talk about emergent reader and emergent writer. We have three lesson objectives. First, at the end of the lesson, you need or you should be able to describe an emergent reader and emergent writer, discriminate the different views about reading, and identify the factors which determine the development of emergent reader and emergent writer. Now, since some parts of this lesson were already discussed in the previous lessons that we had, I want you to identify whether the following statements are true or false. No, so this would serve as a review for our upcoming prelim examination class. Okay, so true or false? Number one, emergent reading pertains to the child's beginning experiences with print in the home and continues through early years of formal schooling. Very obvious, the answer is true. Okay, so emergent reading is the first stage in a child's growth toward literacy. Okay. Second, reading behavior specifically begins at the age of 2 years. If you can still remember, class, I mentioned it many times. No, I emphasized this one many times during our previous discussion. Okay, the answer here is false. Okay, reading behavior does not begin at a particular age but emerges continually. Some children, class, or advanced. Some children are late when it comes to exhibiting reading behaviors because there are multiple factors to consider. Diba? Say for example, their exposure to print, no? Or yung culture nila at home as far as education is concerned. Maybe yung parents nila or not that engaged with education too. So that's why parents are not that hands-on sa pagtuturo sa anak nila. Di ba, no? Third, true or false, children pass through all stages of reading all at the same time and in the same order. Do not be confused, class, because the answer here is false. No, yes, it's true that they pass through the same stages of reading. But remember, there are individual differences that we need to consider. They have different levels of maturity, different levels of prior knowledge. And because of this, class, they learn according to their own pace, no? According to their own rate. So you cannot expect all children to learn at the same time. Okay. Last item, reading readiness is viewed as a set of social, emotional, physical, and cognitive competencies. The answer here is true. Okay. So remember, class, that when the child interacts with a reading text, no, there is an involvement of intellectual because they need to analyze, they need to understand, no? Motivational. So when you say motivational, we are talking about affective appeals, no, which signify emotional competency. Physical, no, physical. So it has something to do with experiential activities. Okay, and of course the maturational. So it involves maturity. Okay, so yun po. Now at this juncture, class, let's determine the stages of reading process. Now, knowing the basic and progressive stages of reading is relevant in determining the appropriate teaching style for a child. Remember, class, hindi dapat yung bata yung mag-adjust sa teaching style ng teacher. It should be the other way around. The teacher must address, no, the learning styles of the students in order for the child no, in order for the students to learn meaningfully. Okay, it's important, no, it's important to consider individual differences. These should be addressed. Okay, now with this, there are 5 stages of reading process: emergent reader, early reader, transitional reader, self-extending reader, and advanced reader. Let's begin with emergent reader. Okay. The age of emergent readers generally ranges from 2 to 7 years old. So, readers begin to familiarize themselves with the concepts of print related to directionality, one-to-one correspondence between the spoken and written word, and the value of picture clues to the meaning of the story. So the child begins to understand that the picture, no, the picture in the text, no, signified the entire meaning of the text. Okay? And the words, no, na nakikita niya doon sa text class, no, they contain the meaning, no, of the text and the picture itself. Second, early reader. Okay, so they begin, or the child begins to employ word recognition strategies such as monitoring, searching, cross-checking, and self-correction. Okay? So, mm, yung vocabulary niya class, no? Vocabulary for sight words, it begins to expand, no? And because nag-widen yung vocabulary niya, that actually makes him increase his speed in reading. Okay? Of course, there is, yun na nga, no, gradual speed in reading. Okay. So, they begin to become interested in the text itself, no, rather than in the pictures, no. So pwede na silang magbasa kahit kukonting mga pictures na lang yung mga nakikita nila, no. Hindi agad-agad natatanggalin yung mga pictures because pictures are also relevant, especially in guiding the child in identifying the meaning of the text. However, no, mas maganda din na unti-unting tanggalin, unti-unting bawasan, no. Next, transitional reader. Okay, so the child is toward fluency in reading. So they are generally able, or children are generally able to read in meaningful phrases with comfortable pace and appropriate voice intonation. So hindi niya na iniisa-isa yung words, no? Hindi na yung para siyang robot yung nagbabasa. Okay, so meron ng intonation, no, meaningful na yung pagpapasa niya. Ibig sabihin, the child reads with understanding, and that understanding is manifested on how he reads the text. No, the child reads lengthy texts. Okay, so mas mahaba na yung binabasa niya, no, mas maliit na rin yung font size ng mga words na nandoon sa text. And of course, the child becomes less reliance in pictures. Alright. Self-extending reader. So the child is independent, is an independent reader already, which means that with or without the guidance of more knowledgeable others, such as parents, teachers, or more knowledgeable peers, the child can understand what he or she is reading. The child reads various texts, storybooks, no? So, fairy tales, for example, poems. Okay, so hindi na siya nakafocus lang doon sa materials na available lang at home, like say charts, no? Or mga reading activities. So, kung ano yung makita niya, nagkaka-interest na siya na basahin din yon. And the child read for the purpose of gaining information. The last stage is the advanced reader. So the child exhibits mastery in reading. The child has proficient comprehension. So child understands, no, understands the text profoundly. No, the child reads for information, no, reads for pleasure, which means reading for him is a hobby, for example. Inferential reading. Now, what do we mean by this? It means that the child is capable of identifying the implicit message of the text. The child can also give his or her own interpretation. And of course, he or she internalizes reading strategies. Not just internalizes, no, ina-apply din niya ito. Okay. Next, there are factors that influence the development of an emergent reader. So, perceptual factors, oral language factors, cognitive factors, affective factors, and home environment factors. When we say perceptual factors, class, they have something to do with our senses, no? Senses and perception. Okay? First one here is develop sensory skills and visual and auditory discrimination. So visual and auditory discrimination, they are very important in reading. Okay? Left to right eye progression, stimulated awareness and manipulation of objects or toys. No, emulates adult reading behavior. So when you say emulate, class, it means that the child tends to imitate, no, imitate adult reading behavior. Oral language factors has a great deal of oral language, no? So hindi nakakapagbasa yung bata unless fluent na din sa pagsasalita, of course, no? Has well developed oral, no, and oral language skills. Nakakarinig at nakakapagsalita, no? Because how can the child learn to read, no, if the child cannot hear properly? Okay, so that's why, class, most of the children, no, who are born deaf, so hindi din sila nakakapagsalita, okay, because we learn to speak by imitation, no, imitating, nanggagaya tayo, no? So paano natin manggagaya kung hindi natin naririnig yung environment natin, no? Uses descriptive language. Okay, when you say descriptive language, the child tends to apply adjectives, no? Okay. Cognitive factors. Conscious understanding about language. The child understand that language has a very important role in our day-to-day life. Has emerging ability to think, okay, analyze, no? Uses trial and error to discover new things. So the child tends to become experimental, expanding memory, okay, imaginative or creative. During this stage, class, the child is very curious. Because the child is curious, the child tends to initiate all the time, no? So whatever he is imagining, one way or another, the child would look for an opportunity to put that imagination into action. Okay? Factive factors shows strong involvement in being ano ito? Shows strong involvement in being read to. Exactly. No, it means na gusto niya na may nagbabasa ng storybook, for example, sa kanya, no? So the child want that. Gusto niya na nakakarinig. So someone is reading something for him. Okay? Has a great deal of time and interest in reading, no? Enjoys reading aloud, okay? And can retell stories actively, no? Retell stories using his own words. Last factor, we have home environment. Okay, has access to print materials. Okay, so it was found out, class, in researches that those students who have yung maraming materials, no, resources available at home, specifically print materials, no, they are actually doing good in reading, doing good in linguistic skills, no, speaking, writing, and even reading. So it's quite difficult for those students who have, or for those children who have less, no, less resources, reading resources available at home. Okay, as parents who are habitual readers, so children, no, children whose parents, no, or readers. So, of course, gaya ng sinabi natin kanina, children tend to imitate adults. So, kung ano yung ginagawa ng parents nila or yung mga nakakatawa ng kapatid nila, ginagaya nila yon. So, if parents are good readers, then children would, of course, would also embody that kind of characteristic. Has social interaction with parents and peers. No, it's really important to constantly communicate with the child. Has pleasant environment for reading. It means, class, that the home is conducive for learning, no, for reading. All right. Now, for the second part of this discussion, class, let's do true or false again. Okay? So, kung kanina, no, we were talking about reading, this time around, let's focus our discussion in writing. Okay? Sige. So, true or false? Children acquired writing skills when they begin formal instruction. Ibig sabihin, saka lang sila natutong magsulat noong nag-aral na sila. No? Obviously, again, the answer to this one is false. Now, remember, children have acquired considerable information about writing before, no, before they enter formal instruction. Ano? Okay, next. Reading and writing are developed separately. Writing is developed after reading. True or false? The answer, class, is false. No? Remember that we cannot separate reading from writing. They're always related with each other. So the child's experimentation with writing allows him to construct and refine, no? Refine the kind of knowledge about written language that makes reading possible. So it's difficult to write something you haven't read, and it's difficult also to what do you call this, to read, no, read something that you haven't written at all. Okay, so they are, they developed concurrently, no, simultaneous, class, hindi yung nauna yung isa kaysa sa isa, no. Okay, last item. Children have learned to write because of familiar writing situations, and real-life writing experiences are evident in the home environment as modeled by parents and other family members. Obviously, class, the answer to this one is true. Okay. True or false? Emergent writing is developed through constant invention and reinvention of the forms of written language. So it's some sort of experimentation, class. Diba? Okay? Yes, the answer is true. Hopefully, class, that you are able to get perfect score, no, in our true or false quizzes or exercises. All right. Like in reading, class, there are also stages of writing process. Okay? What are they? There are 6 levels. The first one, we have scribbles or marks. Okay, so scribbles, scribble writes deliberately. So when you say deliberate, it means that it is intentional of the child. Makes marks that appear to adults to be in random order. So when you say random, class, there is no particular meaning in it. Nagsascribble lang siya, no? So it could be on the walls, on a paper, no, on a table. So scribble. But that's the first level of writing process. Second level, we have controlled linear scribbles. So when you say controlled, at some point, class, the scribbles have pattern, no? Scribbles lines, circles, or zigzags in rows, no? Often repeats action and forms. Okay? The third level is the mock letters or letter-like forms. So write segments of letter forms. Example, lines and or curves. Okay? So the child begins to write letter-like form. So yung iba, parang letter, yung iba, hindi, random lang. Di ba, no? So may use too many segments to create a letter. No? Example, 5 horizontal lines on the letter E. Okay? May not orient letter segments correctly. No, but at some point, of course, makaklaro mo na this is the letter that the child is trying to write. Yun nga lang, hindi pa tumpak, no? Hindi pa siya exact, no? Okay. So, the fourth level is letter strings. So, the writes strings of letters. When you say strings of letters, magkakasunod-sunod. Okay? So, random pa din. No? Writes some letters correctly. Yung iba, tama. Yung iba naman, mali. Writes letters in unconventional order. No? Not the usual A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No? Make copy environmental print. Say for example, may nakita silang label, no, label sa shampoo, no, sa toothpaste, no, logo for example, no, so McDonald's or sa Jollibee, so that child tends to imitate these kinds of symbols, no. Level 5, early invented spelling. Okay, uses first letter of word to represent a whole word. So for example, if the word is cat, so the child may write letter C, no? Write initial and or final sounds of a word to represent the whole word, no? Okay. Sige. The last level we have late invented spelling. So begins to include beginning, middle, and ending sounds in words. Represents most of the sounds heard in words in the correct order. Okay, so of course, class, we cannot expect that the child is going to master it agad-agad. No, so remember, it's gradual. But the more the child is exposed to print materials, the more the child is exposed to real life experiences, class, mas madali din yung pag-a-acquire niya ng reading and writing skills, no? Okay. Now, there are also factors determining the development of an emergent writer. Physical language, cognitive, affective, and home environment. For physical class, no, so drawing, no, scribbling from left to right rather, making letter-like forms, marking on papers, walls, no, moving pencil, crayons, pens as an adult does, tracing, copying, and invented spelling. So, dahil alam na natin ito, class, at some point, we already have an idea what activities that we should give to the children, no, in the future. No? So, na-learn natin na kailangan pala na encourage natin sila na magsulat ng magsulat. No? Because these are their own practice, no, for them to acquire writing skills. Language. Writing his own name. No? Copying letters and numbers. Copying logos and signs. Labeling or naming objects or characters drawn. Not properly sequenced spelling. No, but at some point, an adult can recognize that this is the word that the child is trying to write. Pwedeng baliktad yung letter A, baliktad yung letter S. No? Pero alam natin, or identifiable for us. Okay? Cognitive. Constructing his own writing. Exactly. No? So, the child is trying to have his sense of penmanship ready. Integrating knowledge of shapes and lines to produce a letter or a number and to draw objects or characters, recognizing logos and labels. Okay? So remember, class, when we recognize something, it means that we are applying our cognitive aspect. No, we are actually involved in intellectual process, diba? Affective, no? Enjoys writing himself. Okay, the child finds pleasure in writing, impresses parents through his writing-like activities. So when you say impresses, the child wants to show his work to his parents most of the times. Emulates adult writing. So yun na nga, imitation, no? Finds pleasure in receiving cards from adults. And the child is writing to communicate his feelings and ideas. So, maybe, no, gumagawa ng card, no, or nagsusulat siya, kung ano yung nafe-feel niya, right? If the child wants to say, I love you to his mom, so, sinusulat niya na, no? He maybe expresses himself through writing. Home environment class. Considerable exposure to writing events. Okay? So, kailangan din yun class. No? Social functions of writing or evident in the home. So, na-observe niya sa bahay. So, for example, nakikita niya yung parents niya na may nililista. No? May sinusulat. Okay? So, that's important. Nakikita niya kung ano yung function ng writing. Ano yung nagagawa ng writing. Okay? Appreciation for early attempts of writing. It's important, class, that in every achievement the child gains, no, we need to appreciate that one para ganahan, ma-motivate yung bata, no, to continue whatever he is doing, no. Supported interest in writing by providing writing and drawing materials, no, especially class that gustong-gusto ng mga bata yung mga colorful, no, colorful materials, mga vibrant coloring materials. Yun. Diba, no? So, since, syempre, na-appreciate natin, we need to show how we appreciate. No? Okay. Next, no, we have stages of early literacy learning. Alright. So, early emergent literacy stage. Ano ba itong early emergent literacy stage? No? So, in this stage class, the child wants to have storytelling. The child is very interested in reading aloud, no? At some point nagagamit niya talaga, no, yung oral language. Okay? So, merong oral directions. Alright. Beginning to have concept of print. Okay? Nakapagsulat na yung bata. Okay? So, meron ng picture analysis yung sinabi natin kanina. Alright? And of course, the child begins to recognize logos and labels. Okay. Yes, no, the child begins to scribble. Remember that scribbling is a writing attempt. Okay? And with this, no, with this class, since this is the beginning, no, the early emergent literacy stage, there is a little independence in reading and writing, which means the child needs maximum guidance from more knowledgeable others, such as parents, siblings, teachers, and other literate adults. Okay. The second stage, we have the emergent literacy stage. So there is a growing oral language facility, no, which means that the child, wants to model whatever he learns through oral expression. Okay, the child has an acquired concept of print, which means, class, that there is already a letter sound recognition. The child understands that when he sees the letter B, he understands the sound of letter B is B. Okay, and the sounds of letter C could be S or K, right? Okay. There is also a meaning construction class. The child understand what the symbol means already. Spelling and writing conventions. Okay, so when you say spelling and writing conventions class, there is already familiarity with writing process. Okay. So there is a gradual independence in reading and writing. Okay? Hinahinay na silang nagiging independent. Alright. The third stage, we have beginning reading and writing stage. Okay, so the child employs self-corrected speech, right? Increased oral language vocabulary. It means, class, that of course the child serves as a monitor, no? A monitor of his own learning. If he commits mistake, no? Ibig sabihin, kaya niya din na i-analyze yung mali niya, no? And because of that, the child tends to correct himself. Okay? Additional recognition skills and strategies, no? Varied writing behavior. Ano ibig sabihin ng varied writing behavior, class? No? During use of mechanism convention, employ writing process. So, siguro, class, at some point, no, the child begins to um, recognize, no, different penmanships, no, writing penmanships. And with that, the child also tends to imitate that one. No? So, okay. Increasing independence in reading and writing. Okay. The fourth stage, we have almost fluent reading and writing stage. Okay. Moving towards language fluency. So there is an increased pleasure in language use. Alright. Regular use of word recognition skills and strategies. Okay. So the child also, class, begins to read for various purposes. So nagbabasa sila, not because someone requires them to do so. So it could be that they find pleasure in reading. So nagiging hilig nila, no? Varied writing purposes. They write for a request. They write because of because they want to excuse themselves, no? They want to inform, no? They want to be creative. So no, varied writing purposes. Okay, towards independent reading and writing. Okay, so meron na lang little facilitation from more knowledgeable others. The last stage, we have fluent reading and writing stage. So from the name itself, fluent, no? Increased vocabulary, appreciation to importance of speech. Okay? Sige. Capable decoder with comprehension skills. So the child is capable of critical reading, analysis, comprehension, application. No, they are not they are not into literal reading. Na, no, they apply critical reading, purposeful and pleasurable writing. No, so self-editing, and they become totally independent reader and writing. Okay, no? So, yes, class, that ends our discussion for this lesson. I hope that you gained something from this one. Bye, class.